Hey everyone, and welcome to my Procreate demo for the piece I call Pommes Mit Mayo. So, I recently moved to Germany, and in Germany they almost always put mayonnaise on their fries. And a lot of people think that that's weird, especially if you come from the States and you use ketchup, but it's actually really good. But I think that it's funny how many people get disgusted by it. So when I started the sketch, you can see here I drew him on the left side, and he had just sort of this silly expression on his face, and I sort of wanted a little bit more story to go with it than just a guy off-center with a weird expression. So what you'll see is after I sort of knock in a little bit more of the detail on what he's actually going to look like, I scoot it over and then I add the hand and I start doing the whole thing with the french fry with the glob of mayo on it, which should be right about now. There we go. And then I didn't like the angle of the hand, so once you see me finish sketching it, I just sort of adjust it. That's my favorite thing about working in digital, is in the rough stage you're free to do so many quick edits that would involve either erasing or doing a draw over or something like that. So yeah. Now, a lot of people have asked me about the brushes, so let's take a brush break for a minute here and talk about the pencil that I use for this. Now, Technical Pencil is a default brush that's already in Procreate. This is what Technical Pencil looks like when it's set to its max thickness, medium thickness, and minimum thickness. So what I did was I tweaked it a little bit, and all I did was make it so that the max could be a little bit bigger than what the Technical Pencil, and then I just named it Fat Pencil. You can see the difference here, where there's maximum thickness, medium thickness, and minimum thickness. It allows me to have a whole lot more flexibility. So here's an example of me setting the brush at about medium thickness and doodling, just doing a mouth that's sort of like the piece. Then I set it to medium max, which would be about 3/4 to maximum, and do these sort of like bigger shapes in here. Then I set it to minimum medium, which would be about 1/4 full, so to speak, on thickness, and do a lot of these little details. And then at the very end I just switch it back to medium and do sort of like the back teeth and the tongue, and then at the very end I just use the pencil shading tool from Procreate and just fill in the mouth area. So that's why I switched to that pencil. That's why I slightly altered the Technical Pencil. A lot of people ask me what my brushes are. So far I have yet to create any brushes 100% from scratch for Procreate. I did it all the time in Photoshop, but I just haven't had the need yet in Procreate. So what you see me doing the entirety of this piece with in the drawing phase, except for that little bit you just saw me do there with the shading of the mouth, which is done using the pencil shading tool in Procreate. It's all done with that pencil that I call Fat Pencil, which is really easy to replicate just by making the maximum thickness of the pencil thicker, so you have a much greater range when you're adjusting the size of that brush. So now here I am just going in and refining the sketch, adding a couple more details here or there to give them a little bit more character or to better define a shape. I recently was asked to talk about my shape choices. I can't really say that I have a real specific reason as to why I do a lot of my shape choices. I might be able to answer that more specifically on a case-by-case basis. One of the reasons I did sort of the shape of this head here is I wanted him to have a weaker chin than most of my characters have, so I wanted to just make that brow pronounced, and then the rest of it sort of fell off of there. I like balance. I like sort of if one thing curves in, making the other side reciprocate in some way. But with a lot of my shape choices, it's really just about, well, especially with a character like this, it's about what's going to make me laugh, and at the same time, like what feels solid. And now I know both of those are somewhat abstract, but that's sort of the way that I think about it. So even if I have to redraw a nose 100 times, that's sort of what I'm looking for. You can also see throughout a lot of this, you can tell when I have things on multiple layers, because you'll see that I draw through the form and then go back in and very easily erase what got drawn through, and that's because it's all on different layers. So yeah, this guy's entire shape was just, I started doing the weak chin. I thought it'd be funny if he was biting his lip, so the curvature of his mouth is all just shapes that I find appealing, and then the biting of his lip with his tooth was just something that I thought was funny. His curvy, droopy nose is not a nose that I do often. I generally do accent that front plane on the nose, but not quite in the way that I do here. So a lot of it was decisions around just something I've done before, something I haven't done before. And always what just I think is fun. So here we go, I'm almost done with the drawing portion of this, and that means it's time to take another brush break. So this one's going to be a lot quicker. I'm just going to talk about the watercolor brush I use. I use this brush, the one that they just call water brush. It says that it's modified, and that's because I did the exact same thing on the modification that I did for the fat pencil. I just made it so that its maximum size could be bigger. So now this is going to go really fast. I'm going to repeat it a few times, but this is what you get from it. You get the ability to do these smaller details and then these big swaths, and then you can use it as an eraser too, which is really nice. So here I am now just putting some quick colors on that sketch from before so you can just see how this works. I don't have the notation of whether or not I'm using thick, medium, or thin, but this is all just so that you can see that it's that brush with this pencil, and it sort of makes this look and feel, which is luckily what I was going for. So I haven't had to craft a whole lot in order to get what I'm looking for. So now let's get back to the regular piece. So now I decide I'm going to start coloring this. I sort of knew that I wanted him to look a little on the sickly side, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with anything else. So the background I just started gray. I thought it'd be funny if it was sort of just him against a really generic background. I used the watercolor brush, or the water brush. I do think I jumped to what Procreate calls the watercolor brush at some point just to give a little more texture to the background, but that's the only spot that I used that on. So now I'm just going in as I usually do and creating my various skin tones, building them up over layers. I did do this slightly different than normal. Usually when I'm working in watercolor I start at mid-tone and then I go a little low and a little high, and this time I sort of just started from low and went high, which is more what I do when I'm doing a more rendered piece. With Procreate, so much of what I've been doing over the last few months has just been fun and experimenting and not putting too much pressure on exactly what I'm doing. So that's why I had a bit of a lapse in normal procedure for this one, and I just started monkeying around however I just felt like at the time. Just in case you were wondering, the line layer is a sort of little above black brown, and then it's set to multiply. So now I'm just going into all the values, adding the brighter skin tones. Here's the blush, here's the bags around the eyes, here's the 5 o'clock shadow. The bags around the eyes are like a really light gray purple set to multiply. The blush and the 5 o'clock shadow are just whatever color they were, but you saw them get laid down, and then lowered in opacity a lot. That I just used a cheat on the cast shadow of the mouth, where I used a light purple set to multiply as a shadow for the entirety of the mouth instead of going into each one of those components and picking the color. Then I did a slight offset, and I put a super saturated rim to do that when light converts from shadow to light. You can go back and watch it in slow-mo if you want to see what I'm talking about. So I wanted this to have sort of like a really painted through feel, so that's why his hair's got like some gray aspects, and it sort of speaks to the background, and it's sort of just me playing around. Right there was me just laying down the layer to knock back the hair, which all I did was sample the gray from behind it, put it on top, lower the opacity. And now I'm doing the fry. I decided to eliminate the lines for the mayo part just because I thought that would really make the mayo look particularly mayo-y. And then I went in and put in a lot of the various bounce lights to really sell some of the atmosphere of the piece. And then I'm going into the phase where I'm putting tons of effects on it. I know it's a little crazy and haphazard. The main thing I wanted to do though was bring some warmth into the background shadows and just get a whole lot more variation across it, because right now it's like this warm toned guy against this blue background. So you'll see me putting a couple of shadow things, putting some layer effects on, and then putting some like warmth in those shadows along the edges. And then I put some little moles on him, freckles at the very end, and change some various values. And then you end up with this piece right here. So I hope you dug it. This one was really fun to do, and thanks for watching. If you're looking for me on the internet, these are the places where you can find me.